Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up
All that jam.
All That Jam, Quick Hit. Jerry Joseph on Little Women.
Little Women is the band you were
Yeah.
referring to.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that? I find that fascinating that that's where you got your start, listening to what you do now.
Well, it was, I was just saying that I was at this Oregon Country Fair over the weekend. Little Women came in to play main stage. It was like everybody's got a different year. It was probably 85. And we were like this big thing. There really weren't any other touring hippie bands at that time. There was the Radiators, but they didn't come out of that area, and there were those guys in Connecticut, Max Creek, and they never came.
Right? Yeah. Radiators were probably still close to New Orleans at that time. Maybe New York. They'd broken.
Yeah, they would come
into.
up, sure, but we were the only guys that we knew that were like. We were the only people we knew that were doing that, like making up gigs and kind of following a punk rock, plan of just book the gig in the city, figure out a place. We had our own sound system. We were a reggae band, and then but had our own Grateful Dead connections. And I remember playing in the parking lot in Ventura, and all the other parking lot bands wouldn't let us plug into their generators, so my sound guys hacked into the bathrooms, and we and put up our lights and everything.
Professional, pro move. That's a pro move,
right? And so we come out, and there's like thousands of people. It's the Ventura lot at night, and I remember Bill Graham and all these people standing there, and waiting. We're waiting for him to pull the plug, and instead he's clapping and singing. So, and so somehow we ended up in this weird that's before there was a word jam band. Everybody was a jam band. That's what you did. You got your amps and a drummer, and you went in your parents' garage and you jammed. Whether you were
right?
Lou Reed or
We kind of place it. Amanda and I. Right. I think Amanda and I kind of place the term with like God Street Wine and Spin Doctors and the Nightingales thing that happened in the early 90s.
But you realize that's way later.
Right. Yeah. You were 8 years before
and I'm
that.
not saying that for like, because I want the historical
It's just the timeline
accuracy. I'm just saying it just simply wasn't happening. And then, my wife said fish right now. It's her 50th birthday today. And all of that stuff had not even started yet, and so we, Panic, all of those bands we would meet as opening bands. And it's always funny because that's a whole thing that we talk about in, particularly in Europe, and about my career, because it's, on one hand, I am never getting invited to the string summit or the jam, blah, 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 or, that kind of stuff. Even though I know these guys and they're nice guys, but any sort of string cheese thing in a million years, then I'm not getting asked to play that. At the same time, because of my association with Widespread Panic and stuff, in a million years, I am not going to be the opening act for Dinosaur Jr. So, and I've always been like stuck in the middle, and it's like, I think the some of the British stuff, they almost wanted me to renounce it. I'm like, what do you mean? It's not like I was in fucking Aryan Nation in Soledad or something.
Widespread what? Widespread?
I'm like,
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's just all fucking music. I'm like, who cares? But
is that the like management or marketing? Who exactly?
I think that
like
would have
really
been like label, yeah. Like
Okay.
They were really worried about that. And I know that music doesn't have it. Part of it is that music has no legs over there. No one knows who Dave Matthews is in Sweden or something. I mean, somebody must, but no one that I know. And or even the Dead. I was listening to one of those shows the other day. It was that new London one or something. And you can hear it. There's only a couple thousand people.
Billy Strings made some inroads over the last couple seasons going to Europe. Billy Strings.
But that's almost.
I mean, I don't know how that's working for him. Maybe he's playing on the bluegrass thing more than the jamgrass part of it.
I think so. I think that's more about technical playing as opposed to no. I don't mean that as an.
No, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I see some guy in an office being like, we can't call it jamgrass, but bluegrass will work.
It's just like, you go to Germany and there's a million of these mullet guys, Oh, Juddy, we know that Mr. Warren Haynes, right? From the Mule. And yes, and Warren knows how to play the Exclopian scale over the mid-Lockean scale on a mountain song like no one else. Yes. You're like, fuck, you're like, so that's about chops, right? It's not about everybody sitting out in the field singing Tweezer, right? So it's which is and I could talk about it or bemoan it or whatever. I've always really hated when they tried to take the songwriting thing away from that thing. I mean, granted, it's easy for a person that doesn't like American jam music to point to babbly bullshit about nothing. But you can also go, but it's also the Grateful Dead, man. It's a couple songs in the top 100, canon of the finest songwriting of the 20th century, and there they are with Dylan, and so how I look, it's I mean, nobody's killed my career like me, but I if I had to point to some other kind of career killer for me, I think that it was that thing of like sort of being stuck in the middle, like I couldn't really. I'm not your good time Bonnaroo afternoon, and at the same time, I remember the first time we'd played with Tupelo a couple of times. First time we played with Wilco, and all they did was make fun of us. They walked on stage, and because we had guitar solos. Years later, Nils Klein would come in and change that scenery quite a bit. But you know what I mean? It was like. It's been a thing. I hope for kids that, I know for kids that's over. Those days are over. Between your custom Spotify playlist and your AI jacking directly into your cerebral fucking cortex and giving you exactly what you want in music, those divisions they're going to be done, and we're all going to look back at that. We're already looking back at that, and like, how could you? Those that were there in the 80s know that Greg Kinn from Black Flag was backstage at the Dead show, right? We all knew that, but then it got into like the 90s, and it was like these were like enemy camps.
If you are enjoying All That Jam, please like and subscribe to our social media channels at All That Jam Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or visit our website, allthatjampod.com. Make sure to sign up for our email list and tune in every week for new episodes.
Also, look for full interviews on our YouTube channel. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long.